Hi, today's August 7th, 2024. We're delighted to be here today with Teresa Walding and several of our favorite attendees who are going to talk with us about one of our favorite topics. And this is our final presentation in a series that we've done of 7 presentations. They're all on our YouTube, so you can go back and look at each one of them as you have time. So today we're going to be talking about there's no other place to be. You've heard as people say, be here now. And that's a concept that is in a way very elusive. And we hope to help bring to light what we're talking about in regard to the present moment. So Teresa has prepared a slide PowerPoint, and we're going to begin with that, and then we'll have some other time for questions and answers as we end our hour. So thank you so much. Teresa, what would you like to say by way of introduction?
You know, the purpose of these presentations is to open the conversation about nurses, coaching. Our specific way of coaching really is that mind-body connection, how that's created and what it does for us in our lives. I see so many of our nurse coaches, feeling like they're missing a little piece. We've heard this over and over from multiple nurse coaches, that what we teach is the missing piece in what other programs are not teaching as directly as we teach it. So that's what made us want to go, let's let people have an idea about what it is. And it's a learning process for all of us. So it opens the conversation. It's a way to focus in on this present moment. And really, what does that mean for us as coaches, as human beings, and the direction that nurse coaching is going? We're creating this on the road right now as we speak, and it will take all of us to do that. So we just want to share a little bit about the work that we're doing, invite you into our circle to be part of this change. And, whether you work with us or not in our program, we still want you in our circle, because with all of us together, it makes a huge difference. And Lynn and I have big plans to continue the continuing education part of our program, because everyone needs recertification. So it's a perfect way for people to come in and get the CEs that they need for recertification as well. So if these topics are of interest to you, we want to talk to you and see what the possibilities are together. So I'm going to share my PowerPoint here. I don't know why it looks like that, but we're going to do that. And here we go. So this is an implication, one of the topics that we cover in our coursework called There's No Other Place to Be. And it's truly the power of the present moment. And I know as holistic nurses, we know sometimes intellectually what that means, but I think there's oftentimes we forget how much happens in that quiet space of the present moment. And one of those is the fact that sometimes we miss it ourselves. We're so busy trying to hold it for other people, to be there for them, to create the healing environment or the healing space. But it's as much for the client as it is for ourselves. So that's where we'll launch this conversation. Let's see. So these are what we hope you'll learn today, is there's one place where our thinking creates our feeling and why that matters, the significance of the present moment awareness, and truly the one misunderstanding that we all have about how our thinking works, how our psychological lives directly impact our daily lives that we interact with human beings in the world. Lynn, I'll let you describe this.
Well, what are implications, not applications? The way that we look at it, implications are if this, then that. And what we're talking about today is factual. It doesn't have a positive or negative. It's like gravity. It's as solid as the earth that we walk on every day. We can't argue with gravity. There's no right or wrong to gravity. It's always going to be there, supporting us every step of the way. And we take it for granted because it is. We don't discuss gravity. I mean, Isaac Newton did. After the apple fell on his head, he wanted to explain gravity, but he had quite a big job because people didn't understand the concept. People would go to the top of a building and drop a ball and a lead ball and a feather at the same time, and were amazed that the impact of gravity was the same. And they thought that the moon was made of some kind of lace or cheese. And it wasn't until just before his death that he finally revealed that the moon was actually being held in place by the gravitational force of the earth, because he felt that it was too large of a concept for people to be able to grasp. But he wanted people to know, before he became deceased, what the reality was about that. And it still took a long time for people to figure that out, even though he had said that that was how it works. So what we're talking about today are not things that we can do, but things that we can be aware of, things that are always in our environment, that have always existed. And we're just now having our eyes open to be able to see the way that life works.
Thank you, Lynn. So this is our main slide, and we want to spend a little bit of time here because there's a lot to unpack here, just in talking about it, thinking about it, of what it really means that there's no other place to be. And we use some terminology, and maybe if you've followed us for a while, you've kind of gotten used to hearing inside out and outside in. And what those two terms are referring to is not inside you or outside you. It's actually inside or aligned with the way human beings function, the way that we're made. We have an ability to think. We have an ability to be aware that we think. And then we have an ability to choose the thoughts that we want to focus on. So that's what makes it aligned with the work that we're doing. Outside in refers to this misunderstanding that most people have. And I know we're talking to holistic nurses, so we do have an understanding that other people, behaviors, circumstances don't really affect how you feel about things. But I think it is a misunderstanding we have, because sometimes, like if I lose my car keys, it looks like it's the keys problem, that I'm having this problem. And I miss the fact that they're exactly where they're supposed to be. I'm the one that's trying to figure this out about either where they are, what it means to me, about why I can't find these keys. So the misunderstanding is that we think circumstances and other people have something to do with our thinking. And we've heard this a million times in our society. Talked about it. Can iPhone 3, would you mind muting yourself?
Grilled chicken breast
Oh,
in the bag.
I don't know if you can.
Yes, today.
iPhone, please mute yourself.
So I'll try to unpack
Sorry.
just a little bit. It's okay. So the false outside in misunderstanding is that we get focused or attached on something other than our own thought in the moment as the source of our feeling. At first, that doesn't sound very big, but in a minute, I hope you'll see that it's a little bit different. We get preoccupied away from the present moment. It takes our attention away from how life really works because we're solving a problem. We're looking to relieve our stress or find ways to live in this world. And a result is we seem to lose our freedom and our resilience because we look outside ourselves to find the relief that we're not finding from that direction.
So inside out is what we're talking about today. And this is a single paradigm that has always existed, but hasn't been explained in a very usable way that ordinary people can understand. So that really is what we see as the work of nurse coaches now, is to be able to explain to people not how we've always seen reality functioning, but rather how it really works. So there is one specific place in time where we can experience thinking, creating feeling. It's not in the past. It's not in the future. It only exists in the present moment. In other words, we can only create our experience one moment at a time. There's a truth and an insight in this present moment. Once we experience the value of this thought, this insight, we will find ourselves in the present more often. I know that in today's world, it's, well, Teresa gave the example of the keys. Being the keys lost was their fault, not hers. They were exactly where she put them, you know. But what we've got now is the reality of accepting that once we see insight about ourselves and our relationship to the present moment, we truly will find a way, a reason to be there more often. It's as if we finally have a practical reason to be here. Teresa and I have a wonderful colleague who is over in Asia, and they had terrible, terrible earthquakes. Her job was health promotion for her whole country. It's a small country. And they had, I think, something like 11 earthquakes in 4 days. Well, the people there were terrified to go back into their houses because they didn't know whose roof might fall in next. And so they were sleeping outside. And this was up in the mountains. It's a cold country. And when she found the implications that we've been talking about in this series of 7, this was the one that those people who were so desperate, they'd lost their homes. They didn't know if their jobs were going to continue to exist. They didn't know where their next meal was coming from. But the one implication of all of these 7 that we've talked about was this one. They wanted to hear over and over that there's no other place to be. She had been in a bookstore somewhat earlier and had seen the cover and the back cover of a book. And what it said in that cover and back cover was that 100% of our experience is created through our thought. Well, our personal thought is really tiny, but we're connected to a much, much larger system of thought, which is where all inspiration, all of reality is created. And that universal thought is what we tap into every time we use our individual thought. So she knew that when she read, 100% of our experience is created by thought. She immediately knew the truth of that and put the book back on the shelf. And when the earthquakes came, she was able to speak to the people in her country from that understanding. And the way she expressed it to us was, I realized that I was as safe as I had ever been. Now just think about that. Earthquake after earthquake, and she's saying she's as safe as she's ever been. Well, it's absolutely true. I mean, any day that we wake up, we don't know if this is going to be our last. It could be a truck coming at us. It could be us falling into a manhole and disappearing under the water. Anything that we assume about our lives can be interrupted by reality, which is the truth about the way that things have always been. We are as safe in any given moment as we have always been. We're as safe as we've always been. Maybe you could talk about that, Teresa, in your experience of COVID.
So most of us went through all of this pandemic thing, and it looked really big to me. I wasn't particularly worried for myself. I worked in the recovery room at my hospital. We stopped most surgeries, at least temporarily, emergent surgeries we did, but it looked like this thing I didn't know what to do with. But the part that was so hard was my daughter was the first person to meet and greet everyone in the same day surgery area. And I thought, well, I'm okay if I get COVID, whatever happens to that, but not my daughter, you know. So I started my default setting is worry when I don't know what to do. I don't know what yours is, but um, I began to do the extra thinking, and it looked big and scary, and my mind played all the what ifs about the future of what could or would or might happen. And I had gotten myself so spun up, I thought I just have to have some relief. I'm going to go take a drive in the car. And I was driving around. And so, of course, Lynn and I talk quite frequently. So I called her and I was like, I can't shake this feeling, like this doom and gloom feeling. And she told me exactly what she just said. She said, Teresa, stop. You're as safe as you've ever been in this moment. And I knew it to be true. Nothing had happened. I wasn't sick. No one in my family was sick. We were taking all the precautions. And I suddenly looked around and the moon was just coming out, and it was a big moon. And I could see people walking around in their yards, or some people down the street a little bit. And I was like, nobody's worried about this but me. And I just felt a calmness come over me because I thought, look what you're doing to yourself. And in my mind, those things looked real. But when I took a step back and thought, oh, I'm making up stories that may never happen, but I'm living as if they're true. And I just dropped thinking about it. And I went home and I slept very, very well, you know? So it's possible to recognize, even under that kind of stress, what you're doing to yourself with your own thinking. That was a wake-up call for me, because in my family, the more you worry about someone, that means the more you love them. So I was doing more than my fair share of doing that. And interestingly enough, I think just because we're nurses, or I'm a nurse, I think we do that for other people, but it directly affects my own stress level and my own health. And that was kind of a bigger wake up, like, oh, if I'm living in this stress of my own creation about things that haven't even happened, how is that affecting my direct health? And at that time, I was having some gastrointestinal issues and trying to figure out what was going to work and what didn't work. And that insight actually helped my body heal, which is why I do this work. Because even a tiny insight of understanding you and how you work can create massive changes within you and around you. Because as you begin to see how your thinking affects you, at the same time, you know everyone else is doing the same thing. I think it drops us into a space, especially as coaches, of understanding human behavior even better. They're just living into the feeling of their own thinking, and they believe every bit of it. The beauty is when you know that's happening, you have an opportunity to relieve your own stress and anxiety and to come to a place where there's new knowledge and a new way of looking at life. And in that sense, there is no other place to be. It's the most calm, pleasant, I don't know, unimaginable place, because that's one of the places I didn't used to spend as much time in. And it's a beautiful thing to recognize that.
Well, thank you, Teresa.
So that's just one other way to talk about it, just as a visual representation of something that's happening inside of you. Your feelings are indicators. We like to call your feelings love letters or sensations in your body that are alerting you to whether you feel well or not, or if something is hurting or something you need to pay attention to. It's a built-in system that we have. And I know for me, I ignored those love letters for a long time. And I had a health challenge for about 5 years of chronic pain. And realizing that that's what was happening allowed me to recognize it for what it was, and healing occurred. That's there for you too. I would encourage you to sort of notice in your body, sometimes when maybe you're in a little bit of stressful thinking, what's happening to you, what's alerting you to pay attention. Hold on. I've begun to use it as an indicator of whether my thinking is helpful for me or not. And seems to work for other people that I speak with as well. But your emotions directly come from what you're thinking about. If we didn't, we wouldn't be talking about emotional intelligence or some of the other modalities that are out here, because they recognize this connection. And it truly is just a simple math equation. In its simplicity, your thoughts equal your feelings every time. It's an indication of how you're using your thinking. And the beauty of it is you get to change it whenever you want to. You want to say anything about this one?
Well, it's just so simple, it's hard to grasp.
Yeah.
But it's this is our challenge is to be able to explain it in the most common denominator way, so that a larger number of us humans on the planet can be able to understand this. So Teresa and I actually have two goals. The first of which is to bring new life to ourselves and our profession. 27% of nurses have left their jobs in the last 3 years. 27%. Our second goal is to bring resilience to all of humanity through nursing, specifically nurse coaching. So those are large goals. And being able to bring this understanding in the simplest possible way so people can understand it more clearly is our task now as nurse coaches.
I should have changed the slide. So keeping it simple, literally keeping it simple. Knowing your thoughts shape your feelings brings clarity to life. As we recognize that within ourselves, it's like a magic key that allows us to unlock this simpler, happier mindset and brings a simplicity to our life and allows us to engage however we want in our life. And I don't know anyone who doesn't want peace of mind and happiness in their life. It's just the way that we look at it in our world. It feels like we never have enough or always have to strive. Those two are thoughts. So it's a conversation worth having as it relates directly to yourself. And coaching is the perfect vehicle to allow you to have that opportunity to express your deeper knowledge, hopes, desires, and see it for yourself in a really beautiful way.
Well, and Teresa, you said peace of mind, and that peace that we're each looking for, when we each have peace, there will be peace in the world.
That's true. I bet we each have to find it for ourselves. So we need a lot more nurse coaches out here helping people.
Yes.
You know, and sorting your thoughts, you know, sometimes we don't really pay attention to our thinking much. At least I, you know, unless we're talking about this, I don't really pay too much attention. Because I just want to live my life. But sorting out helpful and unhelpful thoughts really does decrease our stress levels. Because we're like, if I focus on all the bad things in my life, all that's going wrong, you know, what's in the traffic, somebody cut me off. You know, I've been driving down the road and somebody cuts me off. I'm like, well, I hope they get where they're going because they're in a big hurry. And other times they can cut me off and I'm like, why is everybody driving so crazy today? And two ways of using my thought and two different experiences completely. So when you begin to see how this works for you in your own life, it's like organizing your closet. You know, you're like, oh, I thought that, and that's what that created, and I thought that, and that's what that created. It's almost like a little game when you begin to realize how true it is. I went to a conference one time for nurse practitioners, and the whole presentation was that change is one thought away. And I thought, sounds a bit familiar. So it's really everywhere we look. But everyone says, well, how do you do that? And I really think it's in a conversation where we begin to recognize for ourselves what we're doing with our own thought before we start trying to help other people change theirs.
Well, and we're going to be speaking tomorrow for the American Holistic Nurses in regard to nurse coaching, transforming the healthcare system. And Teresa, what you just said is exactly that. We are just one thought away from change.
Yeah. So by having insight into this, listening to hopefully what we're saying beyond the words as a direct experience for yourself, you can realize the one place in time where you experience any kind of resilience, any kind of experience at all is in this present moment. And people will say to me like, well, what about my past? Well, go find it. The only way you find it is when you think about it in this present moment. And realizing that whatever you think about your past, whether it's your loving grandmother or your mother, or maybe something that's happened that caused you some distress, it really is our thoughts about it that create our experience and the stories we tell ourselves and others about those experiences. And it's human nature. It's a wonderful thing to tell our story, and it does create us. We make all kinds of agreements with ourselves about what those mean for our life and how we live our life and lessons we've learned and lessons we have yet to learn. It's a perfect system. When you visit the past, just realize You're doing it in the present moment. And then people say, well, what about the future? You know, I'm scared of the economy, and I'm scared of war, and I'm scared of viruses that I can't see or control. Well, I can make up a lot of stories about that too. I already did it once, so maybe I won't revisit that, but recognizing that you won't know what the future looks like until you get there. And a beautiful thing happens. When you get there, it's the present moment. So you'll never know what the future is like until you get there. So it takes extra thinking off our mind. We still make plans. We still go in a direction, and we follow our path to where we want to go, knowing that we're doing it or not knowing. Both ways are perfectly acceptable. So recognizing that the past and the future can only be experienced in the present moment actually decreases stress. If you can see that, you will physiologically change your body. And we know that stress is killing people. So it's one of the tools in our tool chest, if you will, of helping people to settle down on the inside and begin to heal from things that have been hard for us to deal with. And I think one of the bigger ones for me was ruminating about the past. Always comparing my current situation to something in the past to avoid something. It took that off my mind. It was such a relief. But it also brings about this new contentment and inner peace. And I think that's the most important part. When I was having my health issue, I know my blood pressure was sometimes 150/90. I
Wow.
took it a couple of days ago, and it was 110/73. And I thought, it can't be that low. So I took it again. It was 123/72. I thought, okay, so I've taken it every day since, and it's still between 110 and 120/73. And I know it has to do with just that decreased stress level for myself. I know that other people have other challenges, but if I can get a little bit of an edge, I want to take it. Lynn?
So we are advancing nurse coaching, and we consider ourselves to be the next generation of coaching because we include the principles in what we do. So we are the missing link to all of the other programs. That's been told to us by several of our students. And we bring new life, freedom, and autonomy to your career and your personal life as well. This is a way to learn how to use these implications, not applications, while becoming a board certified nurse coach or recertifying as a nurse coach. And absolutely, we love to talk to you. Schedule a call to find out if this is right for you. No obligation. You can pick up the QR code here or just come to the website, nursecoaching.com. You'll find that you can input your information and questions on the Contact Us page.
So we would love to thank you for being here today and joining us for this conversation. We're going to open it up for some questions or reflections or just being together, talking about things like nurse coaching. We want to recognize our friend and mentor, Dr. Keith Blevins, and his wife, Valda. He's the one that, well, together they brought this framework to our program called the Implications, Not Applications. And it really has been a game changer for us and for many others who have learned about this body of work. So thank you very much. And I want to open it to questions and thoughts. And
if you're coming to the Texas Nurse Practitioner meeting, September 5 through 8, we're going to be in Round Rock, Texas. So you can see us there.
I just want to say that thank you for this wonderful presentation. And it's just such a great reminder in many ways. When you were making reference to implication versus application, and then you went into talking about inside out, it reminded me of a lesson I learned years ago, and it's about learning how to be at cause. And it just, I don't know if that makes sense without explaining it, but for example, when you were making reference, Teresa, about losing your keys, without being at cause, you could blame whatever you wanted to, like you lost them because this, because that. And yet really, the truth is, I'm the one that lost my keys.
Right.
And so so it takes us, which really, if you think about it, it takes us into the truth of being responsible, which is tied in with being in the present moment. So like, what am I going to do about it? And it just like being in the present moment you mentioned about, it really lifts that yoke of pressure and stress. And we know from metabolically how it would just stop the release of more cortisol, which is not helping the matter. So just being at cause. And it's really interesting ever since then, just hearing how most people on the planet are not at cause. They're always, it's wondering how their index finger is so long because, it's your fault. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Beautiful.
I love that. That's, this knowledge has been around since the beginning of time. This isn't brand new because it's the way human beings work. This is just a different way to say it that seems to be really helpful to people who have a hard time grasping, like, because, like, that different people have different ways of learning, different ways of hearing. So I love that we have all the ways to talk about it, because when we hear it again, don't you just feel like a little sense of relief? Like, oh, yeah, that's really nice to remember that. I think the one that was the most powerful for me was someone said, you only experience another person by what you think about them. Think about that on a really deep level. Like, I'm only experiencing Lynn by what I think about her, whether it's my interaction with her, her appearance, or what I perceive that she has done or not done. That's not her. That's not the her as a whole human being. So knowing that really helps us drop out of judgment and criticism. Because if you're doing that, so is everybody else. And it gives us a common recognition. That's an implication to how you're using your thinking that may not be accurate. And I think personally, I think nurses see beyond any outward appearances of people. We meet people at the worst times in their life, no makeup, faces not shaved, haven't been bathed in a week, and we still love them. No, we're like, no, I know the real you is in there. I'm going to help you come out. Coaching is doing that for people on all the levels, whether it's a personal goal or, in their career, in their family, in their finances, all the places that a person would like to have clarity in their life to live in this world. Because it's nice to think about not being affected by the world. It's not true. We still have to live here, right? But our perception of it can be completely different. And that's the beauty of understanding what principles mean in your life. This inside out versus outside in distinction that we talk about. It's a way to help people drop out of what they think things are like to what they're really like. And it's very healing.
We no longer have to prejudge people, the rump roast in room 11 or the lady down the hall who is always on her call light. We don't have to judge it anymore. We can simply be in the moment, be aware, and find out what the truth is, because we don't have our minds preoccupied with what we already thought, what we had already decided. That's the way it is, and it's not oftentimes.
Yeah. I don't know. One of my favorite books I read years ago is Dan Millman's book on the way of the peaceful warrior. And it was just such a really great reminder. It really taught me like what it means to live in the present. Because the teacher, whose name was Socrates, like, for example, here's the story that really took me, was my takeaway. One of his dear students passed away. And so typically we, in our culture, in different cultures, we have this expectation of how you're supposed to mourn and grieve. And we have all these lists of, and how long and so forth. And so when Dan Millman, the student, went to make sure that Socrates knew about the death of the student, he said yes. And so Dan's like, aren't you sad? Aren't you grieving? Aren't you crying? And he says, I recognized it. And then he just recognized that, and, grieved in that moment. And they decided not to carry that grief into the next moment. And I thought it's almost like having a backpack on, and it's choosing not to carry that backpack with you wherever you go, like whatever it is, you don't want it, because it takes you, it burdens you into the next moment. And I just thought that was an amazing story. Talk about resilience.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I think when we look, we see stories all through history like that, right? We've been notorious for telling stories as metaphors to help people understand. Because I like to listen to a story. I like to kind of let my mind wander about what that means for me, because it's truly, we're more concerned about ourselves than we really are anyone else, if we really think about it. But I think, I'm thinking a lot today. Nurses have been trained to think of others first. And I think that's one of the places where we get into trouble. We're not caring for ourselves. We're not really embracing me too. What's good for the patient is good for me. If you're a human being, you get to take care of yourself. And doing that makes us actually better nurses and more available to enjoy our work. I like working. I want to enjoy working. And I actually kind of got tired of like, ain't it awful? Nursing is not awful. Nursing is amazing and fun and exciting. And we're creating our own opportunities out here.
Well, Teresa, Robin has written, I love the way you just expressed the way we look at people and beyond that superficial outlook, Teresa. Thank you.
You're welcome. See, and then she said, Jesus uses parables in the Bible to explain different concepts that would otherwise be difficult to understand. It's true.
Yeah.
There have been people all throughout history that have had what could be considered a broader understanding of the human relationship to life than the ordinary populace. But now is the time for much larger numbers of us to come to the realization of who and what we are. And so that is the reason we're talking about these gifts, the gift of thought, and how we're part of a universal system, a divine system that serves us all.
May I say what has always been very profound for me was years ago, Matthew Fox, who's a theologian, spoke at Duke University, and it really has changed my life, because we all think of, I do this, I do that, I'm always doing. And he said, if God wanted us to be, he would have called us human doings, but he calls us human beings, and you are to be. And when you do, and that has impacted my life for all these years.
Yeah.
That impacted me too. Like, who are you actually being in the world?
Exactly.
Yeah. God bless Matthew Fox.
Yeah.
I
Amen.
mean, he's the one who he had his, you know, if you're having like you're having a kind of a disagreement with someone, he has this expression, get an inner life. But doesn't that say it all? In other words, you know, if people are living outside in, it's like get an inner life.
And to
Nice.
build on what Teresa had said about how she, rolled up, the what ifs of all this thing that could happen with her daughter. What I always love with the Chinese is that in their calligraphy, that there's only one slash difference between opportunity and chaos.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, interesting.
Absolutely true.
So it's like where what Lynn and Teresa are presenting is, where is your thought? Is it chaos or is it opportunity?
Wow. One stroke. Wow.
One stroke in the calligraphy.
That's cool.
I like
That's
that.
cool.
Wow. Truthfully, this is what coaching is about, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly it's showing people that and helping and letting them find it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That we were talking to Dr. Helen Erickson, Margaret Erickson's mother. You all know her modeling and role modeling theory.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were on a call with her one day and she was talking about coaching and she goes, I might know the answer, but there's no fun in me telling them it. I love to see it when they see it for themselves.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Isn't that wonderful?
That's so true. So true.
Mm-hmm. So it's that being patient and letting the story evolve and knowing when to ask that one question that never occurred to you to ask before. And you ask it in that moment and it just opens up the world. That's what's fun, because on that deep intuitive level, you've just helped someone in a way you could never have done it before, because it's theirs. It's their gift. It's them. And you empower people to live their best life by showing them that kind of ability that they have.
Well, Teresa, Robin says that stories are helpful. This conversation has been beneficial to my blood pressure.
Oh, good. Now go take it and let me know what it is.
So yeah, Ida, any questions, or Robin? This is wonderful. Comments, insights?
I just wanted to add, I don't have a question. This has been great information, and I thank you ladies for sharing this. I thought it was very interesting, Teresa, when you mentioned that we only know about a person from what we know of that person. And so that's interesting, because we may think we know a person or know about a person. She's like this, he does this, but we only know what we think we know, which is not the entire person. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that
So
one
true.
got my attention as well. And now that you've heard it, it will continue to change your life for the rest of your life, because you can't unsee that.
Yeah.
Right.
That reminds me that what you said, Ida, and what Teresa had said earlier, is that after that class about learning the concept of being at cause, the other one was that was amazing, was like being aware of our filters. And we all have filters, which gets into, because if I think you're the most wonderful person in the world because I'm looking at it through different filters, as opposed to like, oh, you're the most challenging person, I'm looking at different filters. Or maybe you had an issue, you were abused by someone, or you had a super strict parent. So then you're looking at other relationship through that lens, and it's all different kinds of lenses. But we make our choices related to our filters, and it's an ongoing process to recognize our filters, because we have so many.
Well, and there was, when Teresa was saying that last night, as we were looking at the slides, I had an insight, which is this: I only see myself through what I think about me.
Can you explain that?
it's about the way that thought works. I only understand myself through the way that I think about me. I'm not giving credit to myself to who I truly am.
Mm,
I'm only thinking about me the way my thoughts work. Not
mm.
the real me, not the real inside me. It actually has another name, which is ego. I only think about myself the way that I think.
Mm,
That's my ego. Ego is um who you think you are and what you think about life,
mm.
not who you truly are.
Yeah, that's a great sharing. Thank you. Mm,
I think that when she spoke that just now, I heard something even a little bit deeper than I heard it the first time. It's that piece of dropping self-judgment and self-criticism.
hmm
Like, we don't have to do that to ourselves. One of our other mentors, Dr. Pettit, he goes, stop shooting all over yourself
Mhm.
Yeah.
and stop being so hard on yourself.
hmm
When you understand this system of how we work, understand it for what it is and live your life. Go on
hmm
picnics, enjoy your family,
Yeah.
enjoy your work, give yourself a break. You know,
Yeah.
I know there's certain things we have to do in life and certain ways we have to show up for different things, but the inside way of showing up is completely different than when we show up with these preconceived ideas about how you think you should be.
Yeah.
Very, very different. And we do it every time we walk in a patient room. We show up and be present with that patient, and we want to hear what they have to say so that we can be of service to people.
Yeah.
And coaching is a service that we give people that is unlike anything else out there, especially from a nurse. We don't give ourselves credit for the knowledge that we have, for the educations that we have. It's so common knowledge to ourselves, we forget how uncommon that knowledge is for other people. To include my husband, who doesn't know what I do. Right? I've tried to
I think
explain.
that's true for all family members, you know.
Yeah.
I think because we all come originally from a background of fixing.
Yes.
Yes. We're professional fixers. That's what our students describe us.
Yeah. But I think that, you know, you mentioned about shooting, which I always got a kick out that, you know, don't shoot on me or don't shoot on myself either. But that really ties in with, you know, perfectionism, and between my education before nursing school, plus for me, related to the profession of nursing, there was this, it supported my need for perfectionism. And there's a time and place for everything where, you know, that would be a good thing. But overall, it's not reality. And now I'm being blessed with that whole MO, that method of operation of do it imperfectly. And it's such a relief, and it relieves that shooting. And it's very healing.
I'm a recovering perfectionist, Robin. So yeah, a lot of us are. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Exactly
you.
that. Well, Teresa, I think our time is at hand. Any
This is-
closing comments? I know you can find us. It's such an easy website, nursecoaching.com. Advancing Nurse Coaching is our name, and the contact us page is at the end of the website. We'd love to have you just ask more questions, and we'd love to have you be certified or recertified with us. That would be such a privilege.
And Lynn, are the YouTube videos in contact on your website?
There,
I'll drop it in the chat for you so you can find it.
Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you. Wonderful.
Give me 1 second before we leave.
Yes,
well,
ma'am.
just go to Advancing Nurse Coaching at YouTube.
Unfortunately, it doesn't always show up like I want it to for some reason. So that's why I wanted to give it to you.
I know I was looking for making sure that I can still save chats in case I can't get at it right away.
Yeah, yeah, here comes the site for you. Hold on. That was funny. I just now looked down at the YouTube and saw Lynn's face and I thought, am I sharing my screen?
Nope, there it is. Thank you
That was
so
funny.
much.
Yeah,
Okay, so basically
there-
just type in nurse coaching.
Yeah,
you
YouTube.
can.
And
Okay,
Yes.
YouTube. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
You
Yes,
can.
thank
That's
you.
good.
Thank you so much.
and
Yeah,
there is
thank you.
on you, there is on YouTube, there is a free CE if you choose to watch the September
really?
11th.
Ooh
There,
la la.
I have a yellow flower in my background on that video, but you can
All right.
free CE.
Okay. That's all. Thank you, ladies.
Oh, thank you so
All
much
right.
for
Thank you
joining
for
us
being
you.
here.
today.
We appreciate this conversation truly.
Many
Yeah.
blessings.
Amen.
Take care.
Take
Thank
care.
you.